Sociology is the big picture.
It has a set of interesting ideas that have been very important and very relevant to feminism.
It's a study of relationships between people.
Not just through their personal biographies, but their social biographies.
Sociologists, when they do step back, they look at the ideologies which hold up these ideas which make the world sort of seem natural.
We look at markets, we look at families, we look at politics, but we always bring the people back in.
The purpose of sociology, I guess to be grand, is to change the world.
It's very receptive as a discipline to new ideas, new ways of thinking.
There's a long history of people involved in studying society actually calling for change in society.
One of the main things about sociology is it tends to speak for the underdog a lot. So it kind of represents marginalized voices or kind of those who don't speak as often as they maybe should.
Sociology allows me to appreciate a wider sphere of influences on young people and the way that they live their life, be it sexual health or alcohol consumption.
What I'm looking at the moment is pimps involved in illegal prostitution in the United States. And I think it's a fascinating population, especially with the growing body of prostitution research right now. They are obviously a major player within sex work, but their voices are unaccounted for. How they work, why they work, what they do is completely kind of unaccounted for.
Why are some young people in situations where you wouldn't wish on any other young people? They tell me about their lives, they tell me about things around them, things that they're aware of. And sometimes when I look at what they say, I can also pick out things that they are not aware of.
Well, for the last 3 years, I've been looking at the writings and the letters of a very well-known feminist writer called Olive Schreiner, who was South African by birth. So I've been looking at and publishing her letters and looking at what she says about South Africa and imperialism. And those are all published in the Olive Schreiner letters online. And I'm now just moving on to look at how white people moved in Southern Africa and the ways in which they began to take over and the ways in which later on they were disinvested of power with the rise of a much more democratic society in South Africa.
In karate, one of the things which I found was that through that sparring together, it created a mutual respect for each other, where traditional conceptions of gender, men are strong fighters, women are fragile, they were sort of broken down and they had sort of a mutual respect for each other.
I've always wanted to come to Edinburgh. In my area of work, there are several scholars who are very well known and they're here.
We have leading figures in many different domains. At the same time, though, it's known to have very young, innovative researchers. It's innovation together with experience and networks.
Things are changing very rapidly. There's lots of interesting sociological questions being asked about our society. How do we organise a financial system? How do we get out of this recession? How do we cope with environmental change?
What I do is really look at the gender politics of development. My research has been on women and women's activism, on women and women's movements and identity politics. What have been people's lived experiences in the transition from rural life to a more capitalist urban one?
One of the main things my research has been focused on is digging in to the crucial parts of the financial system where the critical decisions that led to disaster were made. There's a lot more in the causation of the financial crisis than simple greed.
Sometimes to understand how an economic situation like unemployment actually becomes a cultural, a social situation, and how in some countries it might be more detrimental than in others.
One of the things I'm interested in and I've written on recently has to do with the economic crisis and how it's affecting people's sense of their national identity, their national projects. That's putting great strain on groups of people like the Greeks at the moment, but the whole entire European Union for that matter.
This department is really excited if you want to do something that's a bit different.
And there isn't that kind of a cutthroat competition, like cut each other down kind of environment. It's actually exceptionally supportive.
It doesn't feel that you have to fight for doing something exciting. It's that you're asked to do something exciting.
I think as well Edinburgh is a lovely city in that it's small, but it's vibrant and it's got everything in it.
There's a ton to do at this university. The facilities are absolutely amazing as well.
We've got a sociology society, which is made up of undergraduates, postgraduates, and the staff members are really, really behind this idea.
It's interesting to be studying society in a place that is quite dynamic and changing as a society.
It's kind of a city unlike elsewhere in the world. I think it has a ton to offer. You don't get bored here very easily.
Edinburgh's a great place to live, wonderful place to study, but it's also in itself a really, really interesting sociological site of study and of research.
Edinburgh is a very interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary university. And also, of course, it's one of the world's leading universities. It's simply one of the best in the world.